This is the Get Better Everyday podcast with Matt Gouget. Actionable advice from real-life superheroes who, just like you, are in relentless pursuit of the best version of themselves. Join me as I interview the best of the best in business, sports, and life. Get Better Everyday podcast with Matt Gouget. Today I've got a special guest, Jonathan Epstein. Thanks for joining me, brother, as a real estate agent, a future, financial services guy, family man. I'm sure we've got a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of stuff in common. Maybe start with who you are and what you're up to, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Matt. Really appreciate it. Well, I'm currently a real estate agent. I've been doing it for 8 years now, and I really love it. And it's something that I feel like I've always meant to do. In fact, kind of a little backstory on that is, back in 2015, my wife was pregnant. I quit my corporate job and I just went into it. I only had really a few $1,000s in the bank, so I didn't have a long runway, but I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. My job had gotten kind of stale as far as, I really was just needing more. I felt like I had mastered it. Pay wasn't like amazing or anything. So I really wanted the potential to just, make as, set my income essentially. And I really went for it. And so that's kind of my early story. And I got a lot of support from my wife. I know you talk about how your wife supported you. She's like, go for it. We'll make it work. And so, it was a little rough in the beginning, but we got started, and I really was able to build the business. And so I'm doing real estate, and I've started another business as well, and looking to do other things. But that's me. I definitely have a background in finance, so that was great. That really helped really transition right into real estate. You're dealing with markets prior to real estate, and then once I got into real estate, it's like, oh, this is just another type of market, right? So that's kind of my story, a little bit of how I got started. I could certainly go back further, but
yeah, I like starting there, because I think the Get Better Everyday listener probably resonates with some people. Just have this entrepreneurial fire burning, right? And they want to go out and they want to do something on their own. As great as some 9-to-5s or W-2 jobs can be, there's definitely a ceiling. And there's some of us out there, they're like, I want to be able to get out there and be compensated based on how hard I'm working, and there's, entrepreneurial stuff like real estate or mortgage or others where that's the case, right? The people that are working 10 times as hard are making 10 times as much. And, that's how I feel it should be. I'm interested to learn from you, because you probably know a little bit about my story. I'm going to dig up June of 2013, resignation letter, like right before I reached 1 year at the state, which everyone said, make sure you get to a year, because then you can come back. You're past your probationary period, and, the state of California offers great benefits and great retirement, all of the stuff, right? And my wife just knew I was done. So similar to you, I burned the boats, jumped all in. If you can kind of harken back 2015, what were some of the things that looking back helped you take that leap? I think there's a lot of people that are looking over the edge, like thinking about taking a leap. And I don't know if we necessarily want to like encourage everyone to do it, but what helped you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, because I especially when I first started real estate, why did you get in this business? Well, I can almost pinpoint it to one specific thing. But basically I had always kind of going back to college, what do you want to do when you get out of college? I had thought about different things, and I ended up in finance, but one of the other top contenders was real estate. And so, like I said before, my job was getting a little bit stale. I wanted a challenge, and I was like, well, what happened to this entrepreneur thing? But, back in 2015, I was just thinking, well, let me rewind a little bit actually. So back about 2 years earlier, about 2013 or 2012, excuse me, we bought another house. So we had two houses. So can't afford to make a payment on two houses. So what do? You rent out the house. And so I was self-managing that. So I literally did everything from A to Z. So that included getting the house ready to show, marketing it, going on all the websites, taking beautiful pictures, and then meeting prospective renters, and then going through the paperwork, and then eventually collecting money, and then managing the renter. So I did everything A to Z, and I was like, this is pretty similar to what I think a real estate agent does. And I did that really successfully. And we had that rental property cash flowed a lot. And I just got the bug for it. I said, wow, if I could do this, multiple times, I could make some, I could make some good money. And I really enjoyed it. I mean, I love the negotiations. I mean, it just got my blood flowing. Whereas I'm sitting in a cubicle and I'm just, counting the hours away. Right. And, even to the point where I had mastered that job pretty well, that on the weekends, I never worked weekends. I was bored. I was seriously bored. I wanted to go out, and I almost thought about getting a second job just to, I had that spirit of like energy. I just needed to do something with it. So you kind of put all that together with with the fact that I was, the job wasn't fulfilling me, and the fact that I had some experience, and that I felt this entrepreneurial need to go out there, and I chose real estate. And so like I said before, I didn't have a whole lot of money in the bank, but I just knew I could do it. I literally had proof that I could do it. And so that's really what pushed me. And I can talk about a little more of what else motivated me, but that was a huge part of it. Is, hey, I can do a rental A to Z. I could probably sell a real estate A to Z. So that's really the turning point for me.
Right. Yeah. So your oldest is 9 years old. So it was about the time you were having your first kid is when you made the leap?
So no, it was my second kid. So the rental started in 2012, but my second child, my youngest, was born in 2015, and that's when I started the business. So my wife was pregnant with my child, and everyone was saying, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing?" But talk about a motivator, right? I mean, you'd do anything for your kids, and that was there. I mean, I was hungry. I was really hungry, and looking back, it was honestly the best decision by far. It was worth all the risks. I mean, there was some financial things. Luckily, my wife had a nice W-2 job, but that wasn't going to last forever, right? So, I definitely had to make it happen, and fortunately, I definitely did. So.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's so similar. It's funny because my second son was born in February of 2023, and I put in the resignation letter at the old job born in February of 13, and then I put the resignation letter in June of 13, and
wow.
Burned the boats and haven't looked back. I'm interested to hear your take, because here we are in 2023. The economy, people are questioning the real estate market, financial markets. You've got an interesting background where you actually worked for, quite some time in the financial services sector. So I'd love to hear your take on, current state of probably all three, the economy, financial markets, and the real estate market.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. I mean, that's almost the number one question these days. So I definitely have a unique background in that, where I can talk intelligently as far as finance goes. Although I'm getting more rusty as the years goes on, because my main focus is real estate. But economic wise, economy wise, you always have to keep an eye on it, right? I mean, especially we all lived through 2008 in one way or another, and if the market goes down, the stock market or financial markets go down, everything else can go down. Although historically real estate doesn't go down, but real estate was the cause of that, right? So you always want to keep an eye on the market as a whole, and I think that's important. Right now it's down a little bit, but it's not in danger territory, if you will. But I'm keeping an eye on it. Look for the signs. Watch CNBC or read the financial news. Just I look at seminars, and I'm sure you do too as a mortgage person. You're always getting the latest and greatest on yield curves and whatnot. But it's just important to at least keep that in the back of your mind. Maybe for the general public, they don't need to do it as much. But for me as a professional, I do need to know what the economy is doing and how it's going. And more specifically, sometimes I ignore what's going on in the country because, Sacramento area, California is different than the middle of the country. We just are. I mean, you look at appreciation of homes, you look at pay in California, it's just higher than almost anywhere in the country. So for me to look at the economy as a whole doesn't really tell the picture of the market that I'm in. So, I'm definitely conscious of that. So I was talking to someone in the Nevada area the other day, and she was telling me, oh, the market's pretty slow over here. Well, that might not really be Sacramento. It's just different. So, that's how I look at the economy wise. As far as what was the other one? I'm sorry.
Well, no, I think that those are all great points, and I was gonna, even narrow it down even further, because you're probably having similar conversations that I'm having with families looking to buy first home, second home, whatever it is. And to your point, like every part of the country and every city and county and neighborhood behaves differently in terms of real estate markets. And I think that even more than that, and to your point of like putting some blinders on sometimes, like each individual is their family economy matters. Like, how stable is your job? How comfortable are you with this as a payment? How important is it to live in this school district? And so like everybody's situation is so unique that like putting a big blanket, like here's the mortgage advice, here's the real estate advice, here's the market outlook, for all 350 million Americans, whatever it is probably a disservice to all of them.
Exactly. And that's what I'm glad you brought that up, because when people talk to me about it, well, we're in Sacramento, we have a lot of state jobs. You talk to people in the Bay Area, there are a lot of tech jobs. Their wealth goes up and down with the stock market, right? We're a little more insulated from that. We have a lot of professionals, lawyers and doctors, where they're not as subject to the ups and downs of the marketplace. So I think Sacramento is such a solid place to be, and that's why we're seeing growth. It's very affordable for California standards. The standard of living is very comfortable here. We have pretty decent weather, if you ask me. And then the whole thing, like you can get in the car and be on the coast or in the snow within an hour and a half. I just think it's very appealing. I feel like the secret's kind of out a little bit, and so Sacramento is strong, though. I mean, I think, what was it, Forbes or something like said, we're number one place to be. So I see that. I truly believe that. So, absolutely, inventory's down, rates are up. So you would think, we're going to take a hit, but we probably are going to be off, but it's not going to be as bad as probably the rest of California or definitely the country. So that's what I'm kind of telling my clients is, okay, I had someone the other day say, well, I want to buy a second home. Well, you're not getting that 3% rate that when I sold you the home a couple of years ago, right? And they said, yeah, we're aware of it. So I'm educating my clients, and they're responding. Sometimes they will hold off, but for the most part, there is activity. It's not zero. So that's nice.
Right. Yeah. And I think that ties into, get better every day, that, as a professional, you're staying on top of all this stuff and able to show people, stats and the strength of one market versus another. What other stuff would you say attribute to you getting better every day? Because I know, from a real estate agent perspective, you're on all the, lists for Coldwell Banker's top 10% and, Masters Club and all those things. So you're doing something right. What would you say are some of the things that you're doing to keep your tools sharp and to stay, top agent?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I don't know how much time you got, but, I have a hard time answering that, just because it's a process. It didn't happen overnight. Just thinking about it recently is, how did I get where I am here, today? And I did everything. I mean, I kind of remember your story a little bit. I would network, I knocked doors, I did open houses, I did everything. And then I started seeing what I was good at, what produced results. And then I just kind of doubled down on that kind of stuff. I am a little bit guilty of chasing the shiny object. So I've cut down on that, and I think that's helped my business a lot. I've said, okay, well, what's kind of making me, be successful, and that's what I'm going with. I really don't do that many open houses anymore, because, my family is super important to me, and so taking off for the whole weekend, doesn't make sense because I built a book of business. But, to kind of answer your question, how I started was I bootstrapped it. I didn't have money, but I had time. And so I put the time into it. I built the book. I, essentially got business off open houses. And then once I started selling homes, then I started posting to Facebook and other social medias. And funny enough, people always say, "Oh, you get in the business, call your friends and family." Well, your friends and family don't really trust you. You need to prove it, right?
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, people started seeing my posts and said, "Oh, maybe I should call my, cousin or whatever, my friend that I haven't talked to in a few years." And then so now all of a sudden, I started getting friends and family to start working with me. And that took almost a year before that really kicked in. But I hustled. I prepared. I worked on my presentations. I practiced, everything. I would spend hours and hours and time. So that's kind of what got me here. So how I get better every day now is I'm working more on systems. What am I repeating? What is kind of the menial tasks that aren't really productive? What can I farm out? And I've really started to perfect that. And some of it was finding the right people. So I'm sure you trial and error. It's like, okay, I paid this person, they're not really doing what I need them to do. It's not productive, so maybe I won't work with this person again, or maybe I won't do this particular thing. It's not helpful for my business. So I've spent a lot of money on finding the right people, and I feel really good about the people I have working with now. But all that built the business, and it's a continuing process. In the coming months and years, I'd like to really work on other things like doing more videos and making them better, and just showing up every day. And so there's other things. I'm kind of going off a little bit here, but there's I would definitely say like 2021 was a pretty difficult year during the pandemic, because I was rolling along up to 2019, and the kids were out of school, right? So my wife had that W-2 job, and she was kind of locked in the room. And I said, you know what, I'm stepping up, I'm taking over. And I kind of shut down the business in 2021. And, I wasn't making phone calls really. Someone called me, yeah, of course. But, sometimes if you don't call people, your business is going to go down pretty quickly. And I saw that. But luckily, I saved a lot of money, and my kids, my family's number one, and I'm proof of that because I basically shut down the business. So now I'm rebuilding. I'm getting back to basics. But it's funny when we say getting back to basics. I had someone call me out on that a little bit. It's like, well, you're not really door knocking. You're not really doing open houses. So I wasn't getting back to basics. I was getting back to what's working for me now, which is calling my sphere, calling my past clients, posting on social media, and things have kicked up again. In 2022 was a good year, going into 2023. So I'm really starting to hum along. There's still some work to do. There's still some time to get better. I am working on that. That's why I'm happy to come on this podcast, but it's kind of a motivator. I do listen to your podcast, and I really enjoy it. It gets me going. So,
Awesome.
this is really something I'm really excited about. Is I've been studying for years, just trying to get better at everything I do. And so I've had a little rebirth recently with that.
Yeah, I love it. What really resonated with me from your story is talking about how you had to kind of prove it to people. And it took a year before friends and family trusted you. I tell people, and I laugh at it now, but I understand it better being 10 years in, that, I was out there marketing, and I was promoting, and I was Matt, the mortgage guy. Like, there was no question of what I did, right? But you're selling real estate. I'm helping people with the largest financial transaction in their life, mortgage. It's not like we're selling yoga pants and I'm asking someone to part with $39, right? Like, it's a big time decision, and you want a trusted professional in your corner. So I don't blame somebody for not working with me 6 months in, but as you get better, and I think that that's the cool part about social media, is like, we get to show our network, hey, look, I'm only 6 months in, or 12 months in, or 2 years in, but I'm working on this every single day, and I'm continually getting better. I'm passionate about it. That's something that I think I have a renewed passion for mortgage and real estate and all of it, because I feel like I'm older and wiser at 42, where I can pour on, some 25, 30-year-olds that are newer in the industry. But that's a cool part of your story. And I want to, because you mentioned it, talk a little bit about family and getting better every day, because me, and family is absolutely everything. And I think people at my company come to me and say, how do you do it where you're, a workhorse at work, but then you're also coaching basketball and doing all those things? For you, I love it. It was like an easy decision. My family comes first. Wife's got, this to just tend to, and rather than try to, be a half-assed dad and a half-assed realtor, I'll just turn this one off for now and I'll be all in with my family. So, tell me a little bit about that, because I'm interested to hear. Me and you talked offline. Never going to regret that, right? Like all those memories that were made and all that time you're not going to look into the future and be like, well, I could have sold an extra 4 million in 21 in East Sacramento.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
No, that's a great question. I mean, you know, like I said before, I was bootstrapping. I was doing open houses 5 days a week, but the kids were young. They didn't know that daddy wasn't there, right? But as I see them getting older and we interact and have time, it's just so precious. And the reality is they're 7 and 9 right now. I mean, how many years left are they really going to enjoy dad? I mean, they're going to go off and do their own thing. I'm happy for them, go off to college or whatever they do. So there's only really a decade and a half, right? And so I committed to that. But I want to go back even further, Matt, right? Like when you first get in the business, there's a lot of coaches out there and motivation. And I consumed all of that. And they say, oh, make a vision board, set your goals, right? So I had the goals. I had the so typical goals. Is like, here's the vision board. I had a Tesla on there, make 6 figures. And then you start hitting those goals and you're like, they're not as important because I'm missing weekends with my kids. My wife and I relationship was, it was fine, but it wasn't perfect. Right. And so I started doing, I've heard this before, it's life by design. I said, okay, well, how can I get my time back? Listings, right? Let's do listings. Let's get systems down. So let's hire people to do this paperwork. I mean, I'll never forget, I had like 8 transactions going at one time, and I was spending 20 hours a week just doing paperwork. It was so weird. It made no sense. It's like, I'll pay $1,000 to take that off my plate and spend it where it needs to be spent. So it's just about efficiency. And so, but anyway, I mean, the point is that through all that, all these goals that I had and visions that I had for how I wanted my life to go, it just didn't make sense. I had way more enjoyment with my family. The time is short when they're young and precious. And so I made that decision. And so I build my business around my family instead of the other way around. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But, I'm trying my best to balance it. And I've definitely, given up some money, like we were saying before the call started. I've probably given up a few, some bucks, but I don't care. I'm not going to miss it. I will never know it. And you can't get that time back with your kids. And I truly believe it. I know it sounds a little cheesy, but it's just been amazing. It's just really, really fun to be able to have that freedom to take my kids to school every day, go to every practice, go to every game. I mean, it's a time consuming, but I feel lucky to have the privilege to do that and have a comfortable life.
Yeah. And I think, I'm around enough smart people to be able to see with my own eyes that it's possible to be driven, to do things at a high level, to serve people at a high level in a business, and also be there for your family and be, super present in that. And it's not easy. To your life by design, I've got a buddy who uses the phrase like whole life millionaire, where, the money doesn't matter if the marriage and the kids, unhappy. And so, similarly, I'm trying to get better every day in all areas of my life. And, I hope, what I'm doing recently, I shared this with somebody, is part of my goals and the metrics that I track is a weekly husband score. Because if I'm not showing up at home and I'm not a great husband and I'm not, making the queen who supported me through all the trials and tribulations happy, then, what's it all for? And so happy to announce, I think I'm on back-to-back weeks where I got a 9 out of 10, which is pretty good. She's a hard judge. But I like that story because you're right. My oldest 14 already starting not to listen to dad. So when people are like, you only have 18 years under your roof, I don't even know if you get the whole 18 because they stop listening to you after a certain age. He's happy to play basketball with dad, but doesn't necessarily want to listen to him. So that's awesome, man. I really appreciate your time today, dude. Is there anything else you'd want to share with the Get Better Everyday community? Any parting words?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on. And, I just, I talk to a lot of new agents and they always kind of talk about, what do I do? How do I be successful? And, it's a little different for everybody as far as what exactly you do. And, it doesn't have to be real estate related, but I think a lot of it is showing up, figuring out what you're good at, what you're comfortable doing. I'm not saying don't get out of your comfort zone, but you gotta just figure out what works best for you and then execute it, show up, be consistent, and try and get a little better every day. I mean, I truly believe that even 1%. Well, if you put that over time, 1% really adds up, right? So I just really love to inspire people and, get out there, do it. You can do it, show up. I mean, I was just a nobody who started in real estate and was able to build a business. And I think that applies to almost any business and a lot of things in life. So get out there, do it, show up and put that effort in and you will get results. You absolutely get them.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. 2 testaments right here to just, average dudes who burn the boats, didn't make excuses like having 2 young kids at home and too much risk to go out there and do something entrepreneurial. Just go out there, take the leap, get better every day. And thanks for listening. If you made it this far, I appreciate each and every one of the listeners. Like, comment, subscribe, do whatever you do when it comes to podcasts. Thanks for joining me, brother.
Thank you.